Hello there, this is Cheri. If you're new to my channel, I am a happily divorced woman who just turned 60, and I sometimes think, how did I get here so fast? Does anyone else feel like you turned a page and boom, all those years just seems like they flashed by so fast? I'm a proud mom. I'm an empty nest mom to two amazing children. I live in the granny suites of where my son lives, and my daughter lives in Sydney, Australia. So originally I'm from Ontario. I've lived there 38 years, and then I moved to British Columbia. So I'll talk about that, the move, how I started over in my 50s, getting a divorce. I'm also going to talk about the love I have for travel, passion I have for different cultures, talk about how I got to learn how to travel on a budget, starting over in your 50s. We're just going to talk about dating in your 50s, okay? Dating in your 50s and your 60s. Man, do I have a lot of stories. To people to explain why I chose to have a YouTube channel. Number one, it's my legacy. It's to leave the legacy for my children that one day when I'm gone, hopefully YouTube is still around. My kids can look back and words of wisdom I have for them, any wisdom words I have for anybody who wants to subscribe to my channel. I prefer to live a flip-flop lifestyle. I've been employed in the customer service industry. I've been a bartender and a server since I was 17. I did it for 38 years. I still work in the customer service industry. I do work for an airline. Really proud to say that part of my dream came true working for an airline. I do work in a small town. I relocated to a small town of 30,000 people, and I was very fortunate to get the job I consider to be my career. I love airport life. I love travel. So let's get started. Why I love travel. Back when I was, I think 18, graduated from high school, my best friend and another one of her friends decided to go backpacking Europe. Now, back then I had a job as a babysitter and I couldn't afford to go. It broke my heart, but I knew someday that I would find a way to be able to do that as well. So listening to her stories and seeing pictures, remember pictures, we didn't have cell phones back then. This is back in the late 80s, so there was no cell phones. And if you know anything about travel back then was you had receipts. You had basically a piece of paper as your boarding pass. Fast forward, I got married, was married at 21, had two children by the time I was 30. The thought of traveling was still there, but let's face it, when you're raising a family and paying a mortgage, two incomes, it was hard to travel. And if any family I knew back then traveled, I would consider them to be very wealthy. So fast forward, working in the bar that I was working at, there was a couple that would come in every Saturday afternoon into the bar side of the restaurant that I worked at. And I gave them the nicknames Regis and Kathy Lee, because the gentleman's name was Regis. And every Saturday they came in and they would have some beers. And one Saturday afternoon, they left behind their all-inclusive book. I took the book home because I didn't want anyone to see it and just throw it in the garbage. I knew that Regis and Kathy Lee would be back the following Saturday. So I went home and I'm thumbing through the all-inclusive resorts. I was thinking, oh my gosh, these are the most beautiful places I've ever seen in a magazine. So I went through it. You know, my heart was just full of excitement, but I knew I couldn't afford it. So the following Saturday, Regis and Kathy Lee came back into the bar. We started talking about holidays, and I explained to them, you know, I live paycheck to paycheck. There was no way I could afford it. And that's when they told me that you could actually put a trip on layaway, put a deposit down. And that was like a light bulb going off. Ding, ding, ding. I found 3 people to go away with me, and we did an all-girls all-inclusive trip. We put a deposit down and I paid it off like layaway. I cried all the way to the airport because kissing my children goodbye, I realized it wasn't fair. Why was I going on a trip with friends when I wanted to make the most special memories with my children? I decided I was taking my kids on a trip the following year. And so my sister and her daughter, my niece, our mother and my 2 children, we did an all-inclusive to Cuba. And we did the same thing. We put a deposit down at a travel agency and we paid it off. And then we went to Cuba. We did have the time of our lives. And I'll never forget, and I have this picture right here of my children's looks on their faces the first time on an airplane. What a feeling that was for me to see their happiness and their excitement. And I love the takeoff. That is my favorite part, just as the plane's rising and you get those butterflies, that feeling and not knowing. You don't know what's going to happen on your vacation, but all you know is you're going to a different part of the world that you've seen in geography or you've seen in history books, you've heard about it, in school. What a rush that was, and what an amazing time we had. After our Cuba trip with my children and my mother and my sister and my niece, I realized that I could do this. I could take my children somewhere in the world every year. My aunt and uncle came for a visit, lived an hour away from where my parents lived, and they came for a visit after they had taken their first trip to England to visit family. I was going through their photo albums and I seen their pictures and the family that they met up with. This is where my light bulb moment went off going, I'm going to England. I'm going to do this. Again, going to a travel agency, I put a deposit down, and this is where my parents, my father asked him and my mom go with us as well. And of course, why wouldn't I take my parents? My father's father, my papa, my grandfather comes from England, right off of Portobello Road, London, England. And this was a year in advance. So remember, putting deposit down as a layaway, you have months to pay it off. I believe back then I had to have it paid off a month prior to departure. Because I worked in the bar industry, every week with the tips that I had, I would take a portion aside and I would go to the bank and buy pounds and euros. Be on the computer and looking for not hotels, bed and breakfast, because I knew bed and breakfast would be cheaper. I found a place called the George and Bower House, and it was right outside of Victoria Station in London, England. Got a prepaid credit card. I paid for one night at this George and Bower bed and breakfast place, and then I would pay cash upon arrival. So once that was set, then I started looking for other places to go visit, reached out to our family through an email saying, hey, this is the time that we're coming. And then my father and we wanted to go somewhere else. We chose Paris. So I booked the Paris Channel tickets online. I paid with a prepaid credit card. And then every week, like I said, I would go and change my Canadian tips into pounds and euros. And off we go. I had a friend back then who owned his own limousine company. We took a limousine, my mom and my dad and my daughter, my son and myself, to the airport. The flight was about 9 hours. We landed in London at Gatwick Airport and collect our luggage. And I will tell you this, over the years of taking suitcases, no more. I'm a backpacker. And there's a massive reason why. When you're walking down cobblestone streets, whether it's anywhere in Europe, it's London, and you're hauling your suitcases and you're getting off a plane to a train to a taxi and you're lugging all that, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I love being a backpacker, but back then you took a suitcase. And let's face it, did you wear everything that you've chosen your outfits? Life lessons learned. Visiting family, wow, what an experience that was. So of course it was very heartfelt to see my father meeting his cousin for the first time, walking up the road where my papa grew up as a young boy. And at 15, he got on a boat, the Salvation Army boat, and left his family for good to immigrate to Canada. Still brings tears to my eyes, because if it hadn't been for him coming, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now on YouTube. My son was a skater boy back then, so we found some skate parks and, oh wow, he would skateboard on the streets of London and even did a kickflip off of the Buckingham Palace, Queen Victoria statue, where the police are going, no, no, no. But we would say, but we're Canadian, we're from Canada. Those memories of traveling with my children and my parents, that's the reason why I have the love for travel. And I'm telling you right now, if you can't afford it, yeah, you can. I live paycheck to paycheck. I travel on the lowest budget possible, whether it's putting a deposit down, it's what you're willing to give up. I realized that ordering takeaway, going out for dinners and drinks, going out for nights out of dancing, I'd rather give that up, because in my mind, every dollar that I spend gives me a chance to see something somewhere in the world. So there you go, the reason why I love to travel. That first friend that went off on a backpacking adventure and I couldn't go, but I found a way. And that's what I'm talking about today. There is a way to travel and you don't have to spend a lot of money. I've done the resort life, I've done bed and breakfasts, and now I do hostel life. This hostel life it's great. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It can be from your 18s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I love that life because you're meeting people from all over the world. You're getting to know people. Sometimes you even just say, hey, where are you off to? And next thing you know it, you're hanging out at the Crazy Tree Bar in, where was I? In Vietnam. Travel connects people. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Look how excited I am when I talk about travel. The languages, even if you pick up certain phrases, Xin Chào, saying hello in Vietnamese, or Kap Kun Ka, thank you in Thai. Those phrases mean a lot to the local people wherever you are, because at least you're trying to make that effort. I hope you stay tuned. I hope you subscribe to my channel. That is my reason why I love to travel, traveling on a dime. Stay tuned. I'm about to get on a flight with my daughter. I'm right now in Australia visiting her. I've taken my 6-week vacation at work and combined it all into one. It's almost 8 weeks. It's my second home. We're about to get on a plane. It's our yearly holiday. She's about to turn 30. We always go away every year for her birthday, and this is a special one. This is our month-long vacation where we'll fly from Sydney via Singapore over to Sri Lanka. We'll head over to the Maldives, and then we'll go back to Sri Lanka and spend almost a month touring on a motorbike. Yes, I'm on the back, she's in the front, and we're backpackers. Then off to Singapore for a few days, and then back to Sydney. So stay tuned. I hope you subscribe. I am here to tell you all the ins and outs of travel, how you can travel on a dime. They're the reason why. I don't know if you can see them right here. My kids, right there. They're everything. They're the reason why I travel, why I chose to take them on a vacation with me, to show them some place in the world. Have an amazing day. Stay tuned. I have lots of surprises coming up.